Hey, welcome. My name is David. I'm the host of the Freeze Dry Business channel. And if you're not familiar with me, I live in Boise, Idaho. I run a freeze drying business on the side of my full-time job, and I really love this industry. And one of the things that I like doing in these recaps is highlighting the area that I live. Right behind me is the LeBois Park Turf Bar and Grill. Now, it's connected to the LeBois Park horse racing facility that used to exist here in Boise, Idaho. In fact, actually, it's not Boise, it's called Garden City. Garden City is kind of this little inlet within the Boise and kind of Meridian area, squeezed in Ada County. And it has different types of laws, regulations, things like that. And in fact, they used to have casinos all along this street called Chinden that's a little bit close to here. They also had a racetrack, and it was called LeBois Park. They had a lot of different races running from May through August. It was a lot of fun to be able to have something really unique to this area. Now, LeBois Park and horse racing doesn't exist anymore in Garden City, but there's a lot of history that went on here. And in fact, if you're familiar with the horse racing movie called Seabiscuit, there's a jockey there named Gary Stevens. He's the famous jockey that's won a lot of different races for a lot of different horses, and he came out of this LeBois Park and used to race here quite a bit to kind of get his experience and things. So look him up. Also, they used to have actual slot machines in the bar and grill area. And the interesting part about these slot machines is the state of Idaho does not allow any type of gambling. Now, they have the Idaho Lottery where you can do scratch tickets. They also have the Powerball and the Mega Millions. They do have some pull tabs, things like that, but there's no any gambling outside of some Native American reservations that are in the state. So to get through those loopholes, the owners of this horse racing park, to kind of boost up revenue because they shortened down the season of their horse races, they found that if they bought these slot machines that basically would run simulations at random of past historical simulcasted horse racing races, they would then be able to program in the slot machines a randomized like winner and a randomized kind of slot that would then generate a winner from the slot machines. Isn't that crazy? So kind of a fun personal story is during my bachelor night, we actually went to the LeBois Turf Bar and Grill and played these slot machines. I didn't win anything, but I remember going here and it was so random because they, on the little screen, they had actual horse racing. It was a live like video of what a horse race, it could have been in Indiana, it could have been in the 1970s, 80s, but that's what you were watching on the screen, and then all the kind of random numbers would populate on the slot machine. It was crazy. Well, needless to say, the state of Idaho legislation didn't really like that loophole, so they changed some laws, and they basically said you can't do that anymore, and the owner said, okay, well, we're just going to shut the whole place down because that was a main revenue for our part, and we can't really see the racing continue. So this actual LeBois Park that used to have horse racing has remained dormant for about almost 10 years here in Garden City. And what they're going to transform it to, that just actually got done with the whole design, is they're going to make it a beautiful nature park for this area. It's going to include some like natural types of inlets from the Boise River that runs really close to here. And I'm actually going to go right now and show you where kind of the stables are and everything like that used to be. So let's go over there. Yeah, so right behind me is where a lot of the training areas for all the horses that were living here during the racing days were all right back here. And the Boise Greenbelt actually runs right along where you can see in the faint distance the green fence right along there. And I remember as a kid, we'd be riding our bikes down here and then we'd see all the horses, and see right here, it still says race license required. Now all this is going to be torn down. All of this is torn down because they're going to be putting a really beautiful park and kind of nature place in this area. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. Well, there you go. There's a little bit more that you know now about Boise, Idaho. I hope it's kind of fun getting a taste of kind of where I live. If you're not familiar with Boise, I love learning about new places. So let's now get to the recap of the videos that were posted on this channel. All right, the first video that I posted was episode 6 of my vlog that I try to capture as much as I can about my life as a freeze dry business owner. I do own a business here. It's called Freeze Dry Depot. If you ever want to order from me, I've actually got my store connected to my YouTube channel, so you can check out the products. Now, in this vlog, I shared about my journey of signing on a new wholesale client that was out in Wilder, Idaho. Now, a couple things that I included in that vlog, if you haven't checked it out, is one, I walked through how I actually put together my wholesale order sheet. I use Google Docs, and I've used it since I started this business. Now, if you need something like this, it's very easy and simplified for you to start generating wholesale sheets. If you're not even familiar with how to do wholesale, I make it really easy. I've stuck with easy myself for my business. All you got to do is go to the video description. I've highlighted there the wholesale line sheet on freezedrybusiness.com. Click on that link, then you're going to put in your email, and I'll automatically send you the Google Doc link that you can then file and copy and then reproduce yourself, okay? Now, the other part of this vlog is you just seeing me go through the motions of everything from the boxes that I use to package up all the goods, and then my delivery to the actual client, and then I tell a little bit about the client and their history. It's a family-run orchard that's out in Wilder, Idaho, so I was really thankful for them to sign on with me. So check that video out. Video number 2 that I posted in June was I interviewed Blue Alpine Freeze Dryers and one of the co-owners of that company. If you're not familiar that I have an actual podcast, I've got it both in video form through the playlist on this channel. I also have it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts, so you can listen audibly to all of those episodes. But this one I talked to Corey Merritt. He's one of the 3 brothers that started Blue Alpine Freeze Dryers over in St. Anthony, Idaho. It's very close to me. I'm hoping to get there here very soon and be able to do an actual full video tour of their facility. But Corey and I talked everything from what makes them different in the marketplace, why do they start freeze drying and start developing a freeze drying business. I talked to him everything about his pumps, his electricity, what type of food and recipes he can do in the freeze dryer. I talked to him about what types of advice he would give to entrepreneurs in the freeze drying space. So if you want to know more about Blue Alpine Freeze Dryers, check out that podcast. I'll include it in the video description. You can watch it via video form. You can also download it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Video number 3 is all about how to make product labels for your freeze dried product. I made this pretty general because I use Avery labels for all of my product. I've used it since the very beginning because it's very easy to use. Now you can go to avery.com and you can create your own account, and then you can create templates based on the size of sticker and label that you're going to use. And that makes it really easy because when you start adding more product, different types of candies, different types of fruits, different flavors, all of that, you're going to want to easily replicate your product labels so that, one, you can have the same type of branding, same type of description for your product, that type of thing, but then you can easily interchange the ingredients and also the different types of ounces and maybe even the allergens that you might have for different products. So that's why I made this video, and I made it a tutorial where I actually screen share my own templates and then walk you through how to create one. It's very easy to use. If you haven't checked that out, check out the video description below because I include that video in there, and I'll also include it in the thumbnail at the very end of this video so that you can easily click to that video and check it out. All right, the 4th and 5th video actually came back to back because I did my first live stream on YouTube. If you missed that, it was a lot of fun. I had some trouble kind of understanding where the chat was, but I'm gonna get better at that, and I'm gonna do another live stream here very soon. So make sure you hit the ping notifications on your subscription that you have to my channel. And if you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe bell right now and you'll be connected to everything about freeze drying and freeze drying as a business. That's what this channel is all about. So when a live stream comes up and I've notified you, that notification will go directly on your phone. You'll be notified and you can hop in. I did a kind of a Q&A. That was a lot of fun. So I'm gonna do more of those. That was the 4th video. But then the following day, I already had it scheduled, was my second part to interviewing the owner of Sweet Potato Awesome. But this episode was my anniversary of speaking to Josh Kingdon, who's the owner of Sweet Potato Awesome, back last year around this same time. And I wanted to talk to him about how his business is going. He recently purchased HRC 100 freeze dryers from Harvest Right, which can do up to 100 pounds of product. So I wanted to ask him, how are those machines doing? What's the efficiency? Is it doing better than what your previous types of freeze dryer setups was? Now, if you're not familiar with Sweet Potato Awesome, they freeze dry sweet potatoes, obviously, and he's developed a really specific process for how to cut up the sweet potatoes. He does it all organically, and we talk about that in the first episode, and then we also follow up with that in this episode that I just posted too. So if you're wanting to know more about entrepreneurs and freeze drying, check those episodes out. It's really informative, and in fact, that first episode that I posted about Josh and Sweet Potato Awesome is actually my fastest growing podcast episode. So a lot of people are liking it, so check that out. Now let's talk about the people that I connected with in the freeze drying space that maybe you're completely unfamiliar with, or maybe you are, but it's going to provide you a foreshadowing for upcoming content that I'm going to be coming out with on this channel. Number one is I talked to Brian over at the Live Life Simple Retired at 40 YouTube channel. A lot of you probably subscribe to his channel as well as mine because you want to know more about freeze drying different recipes. Now he's focused on everything freeze drying as far as home use. I'm focused more on the freeze drying as a business type of use, and a lot of us have a lot of crossover in that. And I talked to him for probably over an hour and a half, one about YouTube. I talked to him about what he's doing in his YouTube channel, and it was really nice to just be able to talk to someone who's in this space, who has tried different freeze dryers, equipment, all of that. And one of the things I gather from him is that he's very much connected to people like you. He has an email list, he has recipes, he has a cookbook, he has all types of videos that you can search on his channel. And it really inspired me to continue going with this YouTube channel because that's what I want to be after 8 years of doing YouTube just like he has. Now at some point I'm hoping to get together with him in person because he's got some connections in Idaho that makes it kind of convenient for me to go and see him, and I hope that we can collaborate, talk everything freeze drying, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Now the second person that I connected with that you may not be familiar with is TechSource Systems. This company builds freeze dryers custom for all of their clients, and in fact their freeze dryer that they have right now that you could maybe even purchase is $130,000. But one of the things I gathered from these commercial freeze drying companies that I've been talking to is there's a completely different way to look at the purchasing of freeze dryers and other types of equipment, and that's this, that it doesn't necessarily have to be a capital expenditure, meaning you don't have to come up with the cash all up front and get a loan so that you can purchase it outright. You can actually look at talking to your accountant about making that freeze dryer as a lease or financing so that you can use it as an operating expense that's ongoing. Some of you have really large freeze drying businesses, or maybe you are hoping to get to that point, and so you're trying to find a way to meet the demand of all these orders, or maybe you're trying to track down that huge elusive client that's going to place an order for 20,000 of your products, but you need the freeze dryers to do that. You need the packaging machines to do that. That's all something that can be done through an operating expenditure versus trying to outlay all that cash via capital expenditure. I've got so much to learn on that front, but just to let you know that TechSource Systems is another company. They're based in Utah, just like Harvest Right, and they actually know each other very well. I had a really good conversation with their owners, and in fact, I've got an upcoming episode of the Frozen Assets podcast series where I'm going to be talking to one of their consultants, Gene Ligman, who actually has a lot of experience with vacuums, freeze dryers, all of that, and so he actually has a connection with that company. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm making more and more connections with freeze dryers so that you feel more informed about everything that's out there as you scale your business. Now the third person that I talked to was EIS Automation. I talked to the owner, Josh, and this is a company that I met with back in March in Las Vegas, Nevada. If you want to check out the video that I posted about that, I've got it up here in the thumbnail, but also I've got it in the video description. And I interviewed their sales engineer at the time there at their facility to talk about what is packaging automation, how can it benefit you, how can you make this all make sense in a break-even standpoint so that you can afford to not have to do as much labor-intensive work as we know we do with candy unwrapping, with packaging, with all the types of things that go into a freeze-dried candy or fruit business. All of that can actually be automated so that you're spending more time marketing, advertising, meeting clients, going to shows, doing a lot of the fun stuff that I know all of us enjoy doing, but we're still doing the manual labor of scooping up candy and ice cream and all that type of stuff to be able to put it in the bag. So that's a really fun interview that's going to be coming up as well in the podcast. And if you haven't checked out the video about EIS Automation, check out the video description below. Now, hey, thanks for joining me on this monthly recap. If you want to see more recaps, check out the video description, or I'm going to include more thumbnails of those videos coming up next. I'll see you there.